Hi friends, Miss A here. Today we're going to talk about math, our Module 5 Lesson 15, and we are going to focus on placing any fraction on a number line with an endpoint of 0 and 1. So let's get started. Alright, so before we get started, we're going to talk about our application problem. And this is just a little review. So, Davis wants to make a picture using 9 square tiles. As I'm reading, I want to make sure I'm doing my read, draw, write, so think about what you would underline, what you would do to solve this problem, and we'll keep going with it. So, Davis wants to make a picture using 9 square tiles. So I know that this 9 square tiles is what I would underline. What fraction of the picture does one tile represent? So I need to think about the fraction and one tile and what it represents. So draw 3 different ways Davis could make his picture. So think about our 9 square tiles and drawing 3 different ways Davis could make his picture. So take a moment, pause this video, and try thinking of the 3 different ways. So first we could draw it like this. So I have my 4, 3, 2. Next I can do rows of 2, groups of 2 with 1 on top. And last is 3 rows of 3. And we know that one tile, because we want to think about what one tile represents, is 1/9 of the picture. So one tile is 1 out of 9 pieces. So here we are, we have our number line, just like we talked about in the beginning. So we have 0 and 1. If you have a piece of paper, make sure you grab that if you don't and label your line with a 0 and a 1. So now draw my number line in your paper, on your paper, and estimate to show and label 1/2. So where would 1/2 go? Think about halves and how many pieces you have. So I think about these two, and this is where my 1/2 is. So I have 1 piece, 2 pieces. And I would label the top. So as I'm doing this, I want you to think about that as well and label this number line with your piece as well. So now I need to think about 1/10. It says show 1/10. What would I do to think about how you would break this up into 10 pieces? This half mark, I know half of 10, which is my denominator, is 5. So I could label this 5/10 because that would be half of my 10s. So I have to think, okay, if I were to break this into 5 pieces and then this into 5 pieces, 1/10 would go about here. So I want you to do the same. Next, I need to think about 1/4. So again, I look at this half right here and I think, okay, if there are 4 pieces total, I need 2 pieces within this half and 2 pieces within that half. So I think about breaking it into 0 and 1 into 4 equal pieces, and I would label it right here. So now that we're adding more onto our number line, I want you to think about kind of forgetting about this 1/10, but always going back to this 1/2. We want to make sure that we're breaking it just like we would on any number line. We look at the 0 and the 1, and we know that this 1/4, I would just break this line into 4 different pieces. So whatever the denominator is, always go back to your original numbers. Now, I want to show 1/8. So again, I know half of 1/8. So from 0 to 1, I need to make 8 little pieces. Half of that would be 4. So I need to think about where over here would be how I can break this into 4 pieces. And I would label it about right here. So this is where my 1/8 would be. Next, I need to break it into 1/3. So now I look at my denominator and I know from 0 to 1, now I need to break this whole thing into 3 different pieces. So I have to think, okay, normally 1 piece could go there and another piece could go there. So my 1/3 to break it into 3 equal pieces would be placed right about here. Now, I'll go back to the slide. So now you'll see there's a lot of different fractions on this number line, and these, the ones that are bigger, the bigger the number, the closer to 0 it is. And when we go to 1/2, this is kind of how each piece gets bigger, right? We want to make sure when you're thinking of the number line, you are thinking from 0 to 1, or how many pieces you need to break this whole into. So we are going to look at our first problem. We're going to locate the points to 2/3 on a number line. So again, draw a number part. So we need to draw a number line. So I have 2/3. How many equal parts are there in the whole? And there are 3 because I see this thirds right here. Next, how many of those equal parts have to be counted? So if this is my thirds, how many pieces I need? I need to count for 2 because my fraction is 2/3. So 2 need to be shaded in or counted for. Lastly, count up to 2/3, starting with 1/3. So I know there are 3 total. So I have 1/3, 2/3, and that's how many it takes me to get here. So I have 2 parts to get to my 2/3. So now I need to draw a 2-part number bond with 1 whole and 1 part as 2/3. So let me move myself. So 1 part, so we know this number bond up top here, that needs to be a whole of 1. And 1 part needs to be 2/3. So 1 part is 2/3, which leaves me 1 more piece as my remainder. And we need to draw a line with endpoints of 0 and 1 and 2/3 and 3/3 to match your number bond. So I know this 1 whole is equal to 3/3. So 1 whole is the same as 3/3. So I'm going to draw my number line. I'll move myself up here. And I have 0/3, I have 1/3, I have 2/3, and I have 3/3. So my number line I labeled 0 and 1 because 0/3, if we have no pieces out of 3, then that's the same as 0. And if we have 3 pieces out of 3, I know I have 1 whole part. So let's try it again. So as I'm going, you can also pause the video and start doing this yourself as well. So I need to locate the points 3/5 on a number line. So my fraction that I'm working with is 3/5. So again, 3/5, how many equal parts are in the whole? So how many total pieces will I need? And I see it is 5, so fifths. Then I need to think about the equal parts I have to be counted. So how many parts am I really thinking about? When that is 3. So now let's count up to 3/5, starting at 1/5. So we have 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, and that's exactly where I need to be. Next, we need to draw a 2-part number bond. So thinking about the last problem we had, we want to have 1 part as 3/5. So I have this 3/5, so 1 part of my number bond is 3/5, and the next part of my number bond is 2/5. So if I have 3 parts, I need to have 2 more to make 5/5 as my whole. So I'm going to take my number line. Again, I start with 0 and I go to 1 because those are my 2 endpoints. I have 0/5 and I have 5/5, and I need to break it up into 5 pieces, and I label where my 3/5 goes. So boys and girls, today for math, your job will be the same thing. You're going to look at our number lines and think about how you can break them up into parts on a number line.